Hey guys, before I get into the evidence to show that the Democrat Party has turned into a cult, I just want to remind everybody to tune in tomorrow. It's going to be our fourth installment of Blue Collar and a Scholar. If you've seen the first three, we had Dr. Scott Hahn, Dr. Alan Keyes, and Dr. Robert P. George. Tomorrow, I'm privileged to have as a guest Dr. Jules Gomez. Jules is a former Anglican priest with a PhD in Old Testament studies from Cambridge University. And if you know me, I know all these random facts. I'll just throw one out there for you that I know. Whenever there's any survey of professors and scholars, which are the top universities in the world, Cambridge always makes the top three. Sometimes it has Cambridge as number 2 and Oxford University as number 3, and sometimes it's flop 2 and 3. By the way, MIT here in America, Massachusetts, is always ranked number 1. In fact, I'd like to get Dr. Shiva, I think his name is, was a professor at MIT on, but he's been banned from YouTube because he disagrees with Fauciism. So I don't know if I can get him on, or it might be risky. They might take me off. Maybe I can get him on my Rumble channel. But getting back to Dr. Jules, he's a former Anglican priest who, while he was an Anglican priest, he was the canon theologian for the largest Anglican cathedral in the world. This guy's very impressive. He also has a PhD. And of course, like all these scholars, he's got a bunch of degrees other than that. Now, you may know Dr. Jules Gomez from Church Militant. He's the Rome correspondent, and it'll be interesting to get the inside scoop there. But you can see a lot of his stuff on Church Militant and on his Twitter account on that. But I really want to get to know the man. What makes a man who's an Anglican priest, the canon theologian at the largest Anglican cathedral in the world, become Catholic? Someone who knows the Bible better than most, PhD, Old Testament. So I'm curious to talk to this Bible scholar about what brought him to the awakening to come home to Rome. Now, getting to today's subject. So over the summer, when the Black Lives Marxist organization were tearing down statues of Jesus and all the saints at Catholic churches, and when they were tearing down all the statues of our founding fathers of this great country, and when they were burning churches, I made a couple videos, and I said, Marxists hate God because their God is religion. Their God, their God is government. Their religion or their denomination is either communism, Marxism, liberalism, or progressivism. They all have the same God, government. They want government to provide everything for them and everybody, and they want government to be in control of their lives and everybody else's lives. But they practice their religion either in communism, socialism, liberalism, or progressivism, which it all boils down to statism, one form or another of statism, where the state is in control. And that's why most Christians gravitate to the Republican Party in America. Most Christians are Republicans in America because the Republican Party believes that our rights are given to us by God, not by government. Therefore, the government can't take any of our rights away because they didn't give them to us in the first place. Republicans believe the government serves us. We don't serve them. So that's the big disconnect in this country. And, and I pointed out that Black lives do matter, that as Catholics, we cannot tolerate racism. Racism is a mortal sin, and you even see it in the Old Testament when I believe it was Moses married an African woman, and his sister made fun of her dark skin, and God punished her for that. So racism is a mortal sin, and any good Catholic is not a racist. But what the Marxists do, they like Saul Alinsky said, the issue is never the issue. They'll make an issue just to push their point, to push their Marxism. So in most countries, they use economics, like, oh, you were born poor, you're going to stay poor. Well, they know in America that won't work because, Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin and became president. Barack Obama became our first black president. Bill Clinton had a single mom on food stamps, became president. So, some of our wealthiest men and women in this country came from poverty. Look at the sports and entertainment industry. So America, you can start off poor and become rich. So they couldn't use that. So what they did was they used race. And they convinced these young, what Stalin used to call the useful idiots, that no matter how much money you got, if you're black, you'll never have the privilege as white. I've had someone, I'm a truck driver, and I've had this young college kid tell me I got more privilege than Barack Obama. My kids got more privilege than Barack Obama's kids because I got white privilege. Even though I ain't got a penny to my name, I got white privilege. So as ridiculous as this sounds, these Marxist professors convinced the whole generation of young kids, and they're buying into this white privilege crap. And, it's causing them to be racist, and causing them to hate anything that resembles whiteness. And, white statues of Jesus got to come down. White statues of Mary got to come down. Even Abraham Lincoln is not safe with this these young Democrats that go under the banner Black Lives Matter. So I seen it became a religion, and but then I seen a Axios survey, an Axios poll the other day, and I was gonna do a video on it, but I had so much I want to talk about, I never got to it. But then I heard Tammy Bruce talk about it yesterday, and I'm glad I waited because she put it into a different light. Because, she's seen it from a different position. Tammy Bruce used to be a liberal Democrat before she was red-pilled. And she said she's seen the Democrat Party starting to become a cult. She actually says at this point, it has all the hallmarks of a cult. She honestly believes the Democrat Party has become a cult. Now, she gives some really good points. For example, I've always said Democrats control their base by fear. It used to be climate control. Now it's the pandemic. And Tammy Bruce made that point. Cults will always control people by fear. And they'll always keep you, they'll keep you without the knowledge you need to make proper decisions. So, I know a lot of young Democrats that they won't listen to anybody outside their bubble. So, for example, even Bill Maher made fun of this. Bill Maher, I wouldn't say he's part of this cult. I would say he's like the older generation of liberals. I would say he's, the part that government's his God and liberalism is his religion. But he sees the foolishness of the little young cultists in his party. And he pointed out that a Pew poll shows 70% of Democrats believe if you get COVID, you have a 50% chance of dying when the chance is less than, when the reality, the fact, the data, the science is less than 1%. And we've known this for a very long time. And I'd never heard him mention this, but, also 82% of Democrats in a Pew research survey said that 82% of Democrats said you can't tell a person's gender at birth. Can't tell their sex at birth. So the Democrats, like most cults, become very anti-science, and they just listen to the leaders of their cult and take their orders. Another thing she pointed out, how cults keep you away. If someone doesn't belong to your cult, you shouldn't associate with them. Well, this Axios poll that I just mentioned shows 71% of Democrats say they would not date a Republican. And it was like 30% of Republicans said that, and this just shows you they have so many hallmarks of a cult. And there's more that I can list, but, this stop's going to open soon. So I just want to get on with a couple other points. back when Bill Clinton ran against George H. Bush, Bill Clinton's campaign manager was a brilliant Democrat strategist. I always disagreed with his politics, but I always gave him credit that he's like one of the best Democrat strategists, one of the best political strategists of our time. Name is James Carville. Well, he happened to be married to Mary Madeline, who's a lifelong Republican, and she was a political strategist, and she was the campaign manager for George H. Bush when they ran, and her husband beat her. Can you imagine today's day and age a Democrat marrying a Republican? It wouldn't happen because they're in a cult. And, Republicans think Democrats are dumb, but Democrats are convinced Republicans are evil. I think Ronald Reagan used that line. But, and a funny thing, and it's kind of digressing a little bit, but James Carville, he had put up in his campaign headquarters, "It's the economy, stupid." We thought Americans cared about character. So we were talking about, George Bush being a World War II hero and Bill Clinton being a draft dodger. I'm sure you heard the story about someone throwing a can of beer at him, and he said, "Don't worry about it. It didn't hit me. It was a draft, so I dodged it." but that didn't matter. And Carville, being the political wizard that he is, knew what mattered, and he put up on his campaign wall, "It's the economy, stupid." Well, I hope Republicans are listening to me right now that run campaigns, because right now the sign needs to be, "It's inflation, stupid." And everything Joe Biden and the Democrats are doing is causing this inflation to get worse, and they're doubling down on it. They're literally doubling down on it. They think handing out free gifts to people, they don't know the American people. We want to be left alone. We don't need your free gifts. We just want to be left alone, And all these free gifts are going to cause the inflation to rise. All this environmental wacko ideas is going to cause gas prices to rise. So that's just a little side note. If anybody's listening, it's inflation, stupid. Please, Republicans, run on inflation and you will win, guaranteed. So the Democrat Party has actually become a cult. And, the older Democrats that are just in the religion, they haven't gotten as cultic, like Bill Maher. He knows this. He's frightened of this. And he predicted, and I think he's right, that the Republicans will rout them in 2022 and then rout them in 2024. So that's the good news. And if you are a conservative and a Republican, don't be like them. I have some... I've been debating Democrats since I'm like 12. I've been reading political stuff. It's kind of funny. I always read political magazines and books. And I grew up in the inner city, in the hood, and everybody was Democrats. And I just seen the failures of the Democrats. And I read, stuff that Ronald Reagan would say. Who was that other great English guy? William F. Buckley. And then just made so much more sense. So when I would debate the Democrats, they never had an answer for me. So... you have to know what the other side believes. You have to engage the other side. We can't be like them and be a cult. I watch more liberal news stations than I do conservatives. I read more liberal writings than conservatives, so I know what my opposition is thinking. And there's a lot of people that are new. When Trump became president, a lot of people that never voted because they knew all politicians were full of crap. And Trump started speaking their language, saying China's eating our lunch, China's the enemy, we need to become energy independent. I mean, he was just talking common sense, and a lot of blue-collar guys got involved in politics and got Trump in 2016. But a lot of these guys never been involved in politics. They tell me they can't watch 5 minutes of Joy Reid. They can't watch 5 minutes of Anderson Cooper because they see the lies and the propaganda, and it gets them so mad. I'm like, just watch it like you would watch a comedy. And just listen to their arguments so you can easily defeat them. Because sometimes their arguments are so ridiculous, you get caught off guard. You don't even know how to answer a friend. And we gotta answer because we gotta win this country back. But if you still can't get yourself to watch the liberals, watch me, because I watch them for you. Because my wife swears I never get my feelings hurt. I have skin as thick of an alligator. Nothing these people say surprise me. I usually know what they're going to say before they say it. I think I know liberals better than they know themselves. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting take. You know, there's an old saying, I'm sure you heard it: if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Stand for Jesus Christ, stand for the church he started, the Catholic Church, and you won't fall for these Marxist lies. And teach your children and your grandchildren. And maybe they'll stray, but in the end, they will always come back to the truth. So stay true, stay Catholic, and if you're buying or selling real estate, go to realestateforlife.org.